Today in the markets, does Bitcoin have a date with destiny to come down here and retest our lows? Or are we oversold in the short term and just putting in yet another higher low? All that and more in today's episode. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Trading to Freedom. My name's Mike, and my goal is to help you achieve financial freedom through trading. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now, in my last video, I pointed out this VPVR cluster here, the point of control, and outlined this box here for a potential spot for a bounce. We did see a little bit of a bounce, but as you can see, we didn't actually make it out of the box. So overall, even though my analysis has been pointing towards the downside, I expected a little bit bigger of a bounce than this. And then we had Fed Chair Jerome Powell come out and give a talk. And this is where you saw this whipsaw action, giving a double fake out on the 1 hour before plunging down below our support box. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. This does not look good for Bitcoin on the daily. See, we had this macro rising wedge from our bottom here at 17.5K. And we've just broken out of that as well. Now, in order for Bitcoin to turn around, it's got to overcome the wedge trend line, as well as this VPVR cluster, which I was hoping would turn into support. And if you look at the daily Ichimoku cloud with crypto settings, it actually played perfect resistance here as well. At this point in time, I can't, in my right mind, be bullish until we start to overcome all these resistances overhead and get above the cloud, as well as this macro downward trend line. The issue with that is that then we have the 200 daily moving averages directly above that. So Bitcoin's got quite the task if it wants to turn things around. You can see as soon as we broke the trend line here on the daily RSI, Bitcoin has gone almost straight down into the oversold territory again. Because typically when that happens on the daily, it means a bounce is coming soon. Zooming back out to the weekly, you see we lost the 200 weekly moving average once again as well. At this point, I think coming back down to test our local lows is extremely likely. And if that breaks, we could see a move clean down to 14K, which is the high of our summer 2019 rally, as well as the monthly close on our 2017 rally. In the more immediate term, though, we're going to see how equities behave when the markets open tomorrow. And that's why I want to start this weekly close series, because in general, unless there's a macro event happening later in the week, the way the week opens tends to be a good indication of how the rest of the week is going to behave. The weekly close for Bitcoin happens in about 3 hours, but equities don't open until 9 a.m. Eastern time on Monday. Moving on to the S&P 500 on the weekly, you can see we actually got a perfect rejection here, perfect on the weekly cloud using standard settings. That was in combination with this macro descending trend line and the 200 daily moving average. And if you remember, directly above that, we had the VPVR point of control. We had this bearish divergence on the RSI, ending up overbought in a downtrend, as well as having the 0.618 Fibonacci retracement directly overhead. So that was a very easy call to make. As far as the weekly is concerned, it's really looking like we're going to come back down here to retest the 0.236 at a minimum. You see we have this area of consolidation here and putting in a nice spike of volume on the VPVR at the exact same level. That could be a potential spot to see a nice bounce. But if that doesn't hold, I think we're most likely coming down to retest this 200 weekly. And as you guys know, if that doesn't hold, well, then we're looking at new lows. So in summary, overall, my bias is still to the downside, looking at a potential bounce, a short-term bounce in this area. Lastly, looking at the DXY, we talked about the potential for a double top here, at least a short-term double top. The issue here, though, is that the DXY has been consolidating right here at the local top. So while technically it did play out, consolidation right below resistance is generally bullish. And you see these large wicks here anytime it gets sold, anytime it drops. We do have a little bit of bearish divergence here on the RSI. So we could still see it roll over here, cool off a little bit, and come back for another test on the Ichimoku and the trend line before breaking out. But whether it happens now or later, I still think these highs are most likely going to be taken out. DXY is going to continue to rip, which, as you know, is not a good sign for Bitcoin and the equities. in the macro picture. Real quick, guys, let's cover a couple of the major altcoins too. Remember in the last video, I warned you to be extremely careful with ETH with the merge coming up and all the technicals I saw. And sure enough, ETH dumped pretty hard and broke this rising trend line, as well as a major support and resistance area at 1700. It even came back and retested it perfectly and got rejected again really hard. Turning on our indicators, it's trying to find support right now on the daily Ichimoku. But look how thin the cloud is here. If we want to have any hope of continuing the rally on ETH, we need to find support here and break this downwards trend line. If that happens, we're most likely coming back up to test 1700. On the other hand, if we see a rejection here, I think we're breaking right down through the cloud to test the old resistance of this consolidation area and the VPVR point of control. You also have the 200 weekly moving average at that same spot. So that could be a nice spot to play a bounce, if nothing else. All that being said, guys, I think the hype for the merge is over at this point, or at least close to being over. And I suspect the buy the rumor, sell the news event is either happening now or going to happen soon. I love ETH, and I'm going to be picking up a lot for my investment portfolio if we take out these lows. Remember to keep your investments in your trading portfolios separate. Moving on to ADA really quick, we actually are finding resistance at the 200 week moving average. And on the daily, it looks like we're putting in a potential descending triangle. As I've mentioned before on my Twitter, ascending and descending triangles in crypto tend to play out pretty accurately compared to other chart patterns. So if we see this break, ADA could come all the way down here to 15 cents. That would be my worst case scenario. Everything would have to turn pretty bearish for that to happen. We do have this trading support cluster here that would have to be taken out. So if there's not some major capitulation that happens, I think what's more than likely is that you would see a local bounce in this area, and then you'd have to come back and retest the bottom of the triangle. Now let's talk about Solana really quick. Solana, since the Phantom Wallet hack, has not been performing well, to say the least. I think it's showing a lot of signs that it wants to break these lows here, take out these lows, and come test, we'll just say $20 to $22. AVAX has a similar story. I honestly believe if things continue the way they are, we're going to come back and test these macro lows around here. Last up is BNB. Now, Binance coin, man, this thing has been a beast. It's actually declined less than Bitcoin in the whole bear market. You can see it's only down 59% from its highs, with the lowest point being 73%, whereas Bitcoin's lowest point was 74 and is currently down 70. But all that being said, it also is finding resistance here at its weekly moving averages and descending trend line, and is looking like it wants to roll over and retest the 200 weeklies. And if we get super bearish and that breaks, man, you could be picking up really nice prices on Binance because there is no support here whatsoever. The investor in me would love to see that happen. I would love to get some cheap BNB. But I think more likely than not, we would most likely see another bounce here on the 200. If you found this content helpful in any way at all, please like the video, subscribe for financial freedom, and leave a comment if you want me to cover any other charts or if you have any feedback. If you guys want to trade on my preferred platform, check out the link for BitGet in the description. You can get up to a $4,000 deposit bonus by using my link at no cost to you. And they are registered in the US and require no VPN. So let's see what Monday brings. And until then, trade safely. See you next time.